season 1 has a couple of like events that feel like this should be the season finale, like the floating island one.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, we're just going to keep going.
Season 1 just did a lot of great like mini story arcs leading up to. Yeah. Watching Beast Wars like out of order on syndication over the air was...
Yeah, that would have messed with you.
Yeah, because it's like every other week there's some season finale and you're like, what is happening?
And welcome back to the Men of Steel podcast. I am an optimal Case Aiken, and as always, I am joined by my rat trap, Jmike Folson.
I gotta be rat trap though. Why couldn't it be Cheetor? Oh, anyway, hey, welcome back, everybody.
I mean, honestly, you're probably the Rhinox of the team here.
Oh, yay!
So,
a higher compliment you cannot give.
Well, and there's the Peacemaker right there. So that's the Tigertron, Derek Van Dyke.
Although I do not have nearly as deep and dulcet of tones as Tigertron's voice actor. What's his name? Blue Man Kuma. Beautiful, beautiful voice.
An incredible voice. So we're not going to mince words here. I tried to do a bit and it didn't quite work. But you know what? We're going to maximize this effort here. Today we're talking about...
Maximize, huh?
Transformers Beast Wars. And specifically, we're going to talk about Optimus Primal and how I would argue that he is a Superman analog. And before we started recording, Derek and I were talking about how probably of any Transformers character, especially any Beast Wars character, Optimus Prime is the best example of a Superman type character in the series.
And then also I think that like Primal specifically is probably the best version of Optimus to make that analog with, in terms of like the ways that Primal is a unique character from G1 Optimus or like Prime or I don't know, or any of those other versions of Optimus. Primal very much stands out in that regard to me.
Yeah, I mean, so much so that in the episode Victory, there is a direct, like, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman.
Nah, it's Optimus!
Exactly. I mean, we're all 90s babies here. This seemed kind of like an appropriate little session of just, like, nostalgia and, looking at a thing that definitely, even if the metaphor is forced, it is the heroic archetype that we try to talk about on this piece, where a character has the power of action and does his or her best to make the world a better place, regardless of threats and regardless of the ability to do more in a way that would be harmful to others and trying to avoid those types of situations. So we picked out a bunch of episodes from the first season to really focus on for this, but we'll talk about the series as a whole. We'll talk about some of the other characters. We're obviously going to talk about Code of Hero because we're not monsters on this podcast, and that has to be discussed if we're talking about Beast Wars. But we are going to try to frame the conversation mostly about Optimus Primal, who is just goddamn awesome. And I think a good place to start then, before we actually get into the episodes, is just how Optimus Primal is not Optimus Prime. They're very similar characters. They are obviously both the leader types for the group. But for one thing, Optimus Primal isn't just the biggest fucking dude in the room always.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he's interestingly like perfect middle size. Rhinox and Dinobot are bigger than him.
Yeah.
Like several characters outsize him in stature. So he's not the big guy of the team like Optimus traditionally is.
Right. I mean, Skyfire aside, or Omega Supreme or any of the other like really weird ones out there. Optimus Prime was always sort of positioned as being the biggest one. And some of that is Japanese toy convention of having like the leader types always be the biggest action figure, which is true for the Optimus Primal gorilla figure. Although, of course, for those of us from the 90s who remember when the Beast Wars toys first came out, Optimus Primal was a bat.
Oh, God, that's right. I forgot that the first toy was a bat. Wow.
Yeah, and Megatron was a crocodile.
I don't think I ever saw the Megatron crocodile.
Yeah. Well, and then they got phased out and they put out...
Right. And then we got the ones that are the
monkey nut truck version of Optimus. While the figure was the biggest, there's a little bit of a weirdness when you look at Rhinox, like, depending on the shot. Rhinox is clearly bigger in beast form, but, like, sometimes it's, like, a little bigger, a little, maybe not quite as tall, but wider in terms of sizing. It's still early.
They don't always make him like way taller than everyone else. Rhinox is the big guy because he's also just wide and stocky. Yeah. He's built like a linebacker.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Dinobot is definitely the tallest of at least the season one Maximals, and just is one of the biggest of the show, just generally speaking, which continues to be useful for him even when he does not get some of the upgrades that the others do. But yeah, no, Optimus, he's not the biggest one in the room. He is pretty tough, and he is actually pretty capable. One of the big differences that they make in Beast Wars versus G1 Transformers is that they can't all fly explicitly.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell was going on in the More Than Meets the Eye pilot, and then in later episodes where it's like, oh, I guess we forgot how to fly. Optimus Primal is the unique one on the early team. He's the flyer for the group.
To the point that that's a huge advantage for the enemy team, the Predacons, because they have multiple flyers, and we've just got Optimus on the good guy's side, and since he's also the commander, it's risky to have him flying around on basic scout duty.
Right. Scouting, you would think, would go to the flyer. He's also not the heaviest heavy, but he's a heavy on the team. They make a very big point early, like in the pilot, of like, in terms of cover fire, Optimus can move faster to a location, but he's also going to be a better person to lay down suppressing fire in a situation. You kind of need him to be able to move into those spots. And so what that means is that Optimus Primal in Beast Wars is a generalist for the majority of the show.
Yeah, mid-tier character.
That's a niche that like a Superman type often falls into when they actually scale the power levels accordingly for a team, as opposed to having the big fluctuations of a full-on Superman in the group. Because Optimus is durable as hell, he's strong as hell, he can fly, and he's got firepower, but he's not necessarily the top for any of them. He's the red mage on the team, which, if you're seeing everyone as having stats that get spread out, and some people focus on some, the Superman type is going to be, fast, strong, durable.
Good up close, good from afar, good at thinking out a plan while not necessarily being like the master tactician. Like you said, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I thought that was because like this iteration, like in the first episode, they clearly say they're explorers.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, okay, they're not like beefy types that we're used to seeing. So I thought that kind of got explained to me right there. I was like, oh, okay, they're just doing their thing. And this Optimus is just like Copernicus? Galileo?
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of a good point, too, that like this Optimus is not a definitive military leader with a ton of experience.
Yeah.
This is a scientist and a man of peace, and he has doubts. I think that like G1 Optimus, who was really the only other version of Optimus that existed at the time that Beast Wars came out, right? I
think.
Yeah, I mean, there's G2 Optimus toys and like comics, but there hadn't really been like a mainstream Transformers.
I remember Megatron saying like throughout these episodes that at this point in the Transformers timeline, the Autobots had won the war. The Autobots had won the war, and the Predacons, Decepticons, were underneath them now. I don't know how that was figured out and everything else.
Well, it's a weird part, and I'll go into it because I watched these to death back when I actually got them on DVD. I watched these to death back in the day initially. Like, I taped these off of VCRs and rewatched it. But I bought the DVDs and I listened to the commentary tracks a ton. So I have like some input from that, which I did not get a chance to re-listen to. So I'm only going to like touch on it a little bit. It's a weird series of a show in that it is technically in continuity with the original Transformers show, in a way that is different from all the other Transformers stuff that has come since. There has been a ton of Transformers material of all types, including additional versions of Beast Wars characters and so forth. What we're saying, though, is at the time when this came out, there was Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime, and now we're getting Gary Chalk as Optimus Primal, and setting those two up as different characters.
Yes, and like spoilers for like a late 90s animated series, but like it's both a sequel and prequel to the original Transformers as opposed to like a reimagining. And I just think that's also so interesting because like to me, Gen 1 Optimus is not a lot of a character. He's cool, right? But because it's Peter Cullen and he just has some raw like lines to lay down, but to me, it's the more dynamic, like, personality of Primal, of being somebody who does have doubts, being somebody who does fail more, somebody who is a Boy Scout, but also kind of aware of the ways that holds them back sometimes and has to struggle with that.
Yeah.
I think makes him a more interesting character for, like, actually engaging with the question of what it means to be a leader, what it means to be a hero, even sometimes if you don't want to be, but just because you're the one who is best able to be.
Right. I mean, he was the leader of a scientific exploration vessel and all of a sudden had to do a police action against war criminals. And it's stuck in a situation where in a Dino Riders style pilot sequence, they transport back in time and crash land on ancient Earth and have to contend with weird histories and all that. I think this also goes for the fact that the supporting cast is so strong. And part of that is that this is a mid to late 90s CGI cartoon wherein they couldn't have that many characters. Like the original Transformers had like a fuck ton of characters, especially.
Oh my God,
like,
you can't keep track of
them. And on purpose, like to the point where they just start introducing characters. They don't need to like be like, oh, here's the new guy. It's just like, this guy's always been here, right? Like, you know, Perceptor, the microscope guy. You know him, right? He's been in all these episodes somewhere.
Yeah, he was just off screen.
Yeah. No, he was down in the science lab doing science stuff, and this episode has science stuff. So here's Perceptor, you know the guy, and so like with Beast Wars, the show had a very small roster. It's 5 characters on each side initially, where they make up for the fact that they don't have the virtue of Transformers properties in general, which is that you like the one that you think is cool. And then you have so many that everyone's going to find one that they think is cool, and you keep going. In this case, they had to be like, here's the distinct personalities for the 5 that we can animate on each side.
Yeah. Here's the personalities they have. Here are the skills that they have, how all of this stuff informs each other, and then like how those characters have to change over the course of the episodes. Because Beast Wars is really good about having characters start at one place and then have to change and grow, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, as events affect them and stick with them in a way that was kind of rare for a lot of animation of the time. You'd have a lot of these animated shows of the time, and especially the original Transformers, right? Where the point was like, we have our episode plot of the week, and at the end, everything's going to go back to the status quo.
Right.
And Beast Wars really threw that out the window.
For one thing, we have such dynamic supporting cast members like Rat Trap and Dinobot on the hero's side, where Rat Trap is insubordinate, a coward, super competent, and a prick. Like, it's great. That whole combination right there. And then you have Dinobot, who is a reformed bad guy. And anyone who knows me knows that I am a sucker for a reformed bad guy.
No.
Like, Anubis is my favorite character on Ronin Warriors. Like, Dinobot is one of my favorite characters. Piccolo is my favorite Dragon Ball Z character. Like, the honorable bad guy who realized the errors of his way and has reformed in ways that are logically consistent and not just because we needed a heel face turn for the sake of the plot is so fucking good. And Dinobot is that. And again, we're going to talk about Code of Hero because we have to talk about Code of Hero. It's so goddamn good. But that means that right from the get-go, we've got people who are arguing against Optimus Primal. Rat Trap, who is on his team, who was part of his crew, asks him if he's up to the task constantly because the mission is different.
First episode.
Yeah, all the time. Like, Rat Trap refuses a direct order. And so Optimus Primal has to put himself in danger. And then later is like, here is why I did this thing. Here's why I explained it this way. And I asked you to do it because it made more sense that way. And instead we did it this way. And now we're hurt. Like, and we're not in a good position where we can actually like easily fix ourselves. Things are bad. And then Rat Trap still is giving him shit. It's not like a one time and then it's fine. Every single time afterwards, he's giving him crap until eventually he finally learns to trust him.
Optimus had to like tell him like early on, he's like, I'm not going to put you in positions and things that I wouldn't do myself. So you're going to have to trust me. And Rat Trap's like, meh, whatever. Sure, Optimus.
And that's such a good line. Like, that honestly,
better you than me.
Like, that honestly has stuck with me in terms of like my management style so much more.
Same.
Probably more than it's like healthy in some regards, where I'll throw myself out there to like work on a project where I'm like, I probably should have been like focusing on the macro. There have been plenty of times where it's like, oh yeah, this project that needed to be done by the end of the month, I'm now like cramming to finish because we were in the weeds about something else somewhere earlier in the month, kind of thing. But I think that's such a great aspect of his character. He is completely prepared to lead from the front, to take the hits, to do all that, even if he sees the best way to do it is this, and that's the plan I'm going to go with. But when something doesn't work, when circumstances change, he'll get out there. Like, there's no problem with that. And it's not for glory. It's not for honor. It's not for anything like that. This is the best plan. And does it make the most sense for me to be there? Yes, no, but it's never out of cowardice. It's never even self-preservation from the standpoint of like, well, I'm the commander. I have to survive so I can keep making new plans. Like, when the plan fails, I make a new plan type character. No, he's not that. He just is aware that he's also pretty well equipped to do a bunch of different jobs because he's the red mage on the team.
Right. Yeah. And like, especially bringing up like Rat Trap and the way that Rat Trap kind of does not respect Optimus's authority at first.
Can we just pause before we go further on a discussion of Rat Trap? And let's just say, for anyone who has not watched the show, Rat Trap is Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point of comparison for like modern audiences.
Like, to the point where I'm wondering if when they kind of rebooted Rocket Raccoon to be the character that he is in the comics, if they were looking at Rat Trap. Like, they're that close.
Yeah.
We're all gonna die.
Right, that's his catchphrase.
We're all gonna die. God, Scott McNeil is just so good as half the cast of this show.
Right.
Yeah.
But like Rat Trap, it's a great example of one of the most powerful aspects of Optimus Primal to me is the effect that he has on the rest of the cast. Rat Trap is somebody who starts off as very cowardly, very insubordinate, and like obviously he's always going to be the team loudmouth and the team cynic. But over the course of especially that first season, you really watch Rat Trap like one step at a time have to learn from Optimus's example and from Cheetor some, but in that case it's like still indirectly Optimus because Cheetor adores Optimus and is trying to do everything he can to mirror that behavior, sometimes to overly enthusiastic extents. But like it's that drags Rat Trap into being more of a team player, being more heroic, putting himself at risk more when he's the best person for a job. You can watch over the course of that first season how much he changes, and that's entirely Optimus's influence as a leader.
Yeah, that's the best part about Optimus, which is that the team becomes better because of his presence there. He inspires people to be better, which is exactly the kind of thing we talk about on this show and why the archetype of like a hero who is doing their best is important.
Yeah. It's not enough to be the leader and be like the jack of all trades. You also have to be a little bit the paladin, right? Like you have to be somebody who it's not just the actions that you take, but how you empower the people around you to be better. To teach young and impressionable Cheetor to think a little bit more ahead, to teach Rat Trap to be kind of braver, to be an example for Dinobot to clash against, right? Which is so fascinating because Dinobot never fully takes on Optimus's ideals, but I think especially by Code of Hero, we'll get to it, you do see how much he has learned by his time with the Maximals.
Why don't we actually like dig into the episodes that we wanted to talk about? The ones that we highlighted specifically were the 2-part pilot Beast Wars, episode 10 Guerrilla Warfare, episode 12 Victory, episode 24 Before the Storm, which is really just the first part of the 3-part finale, and then the 2-part finale of season 1, which is Other Voices, and then Code of Hero. Because again, we're not monsters here.
Yeah.
So talking about Beast Wars, the pilot, I emailed you guys when I was watching it because right from the get-go, oh my God, this show is so good at economy of storytelling.
Yes.
We've got the whole like transwarp, we've come through time and space, and we're having this whole fight over this weird alien world. And we set up elements about all the different characters on the ship. We set up like, it's an exploration vessel, not a battle cruiser, like all those little bits right there. We set up the protoforms, which is such an ingenious little element of like, yeah, no, we know we're going to want to introduce characters more over the course of the season, at least. How do we do that? Here is an element that will work, but we don't have to worry about it right now.
Here's a massive number of ticking time bombs for new characters that we can introduce as many as we want, whenever we want down the road. But they're not here now.
Right.
They're floating in space.
Yeah. They're just sleeping.
There's the whole Energon situation that is on the planet in season 1, where their robot forms are unable to function for prolonged periods of time in the environment, and so that they have to turn into animals as a way of basically like Terminator style clothing themselves in meat as a way to bypass a thing. And that's a really fun exposition bit that they set up very quickly. They bring up the Great War, which according to the commentary tracks, they didn't fucking know what that meant. They didn't know they were necessarily talking about the original Transformers at the time. That all came later. And the fact that it fits so smoothly is incredible.
Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you just, you say the phrase, the Clone Wars, and you figure it out later. You know what I mean? Like,
we introduce all these characters, we set up all that, and then we start setting up like their capabilities very quickly. Right when they leave the ship for the first time, we start seeing the zooming in eye effect that Optimus Primal has, even in ape form, which I think is such a great way of, one, reminding everyone they're robots and they can do XYZ. I always thought that like their like augmented reality vision stuff was like one of the coolest secret abilities that they had, like as opposed to like the really obvious, like I have a gun that comes out of my ape arm kind of thing. Yeah, no, they're still robots here. And just to continue the comparison with Superman, yeah, he's got supervision on top of flight and he's a robot.
Yeah. Every character gets moments that are like establishing the most important pieces of their personality at the start of the show, right? Like Rat Trap is going to be cynical and cowardly from the get-go. Rhinox is going to be the peacekeeper and also like the big guy who's like, nope, you know what? I don't care if there's a rock. I can break through that rock.
Yep.
You know, Cheetor is going to run off on his own when everyone says, stop, wait, he's already gone.
Right. And then establish that the communications are limited because of the environment that they're in. So they can't just like radio everywhere.
The Energon is such a brilliant little piece of like plot BS in Beast Wars because it like the way that they've made the Energon out to be in this, it is a resource that they desperately need and can fight over in however many episodes they feel like. It is the reason the bad guys are there, which makes it accidentally the reason the good guys are there. It is a limiting factor, right? Because it is incredibly dangerous and forces them to arbitrarily, whenever the plot demands it, right? Oh, there's so much Energon, we've got to stay in beast form, right? Like it can be a limiter for the plot of the episode, which is used to great effect many times. And then like finding out new weird things and ways that like it interacts with like a lightning strike or a certain piece of technology gives them the ability to like BS in, you know, the plot for a bottle episode. It's one singular element that really makes the show kind of by how it gets to both be the prize and the hazard.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I feel like later on they kind of forgot about a lot of the Energon stuff they set up.
Yeah.
Because at first they're like, oh, we can't be in our robot form. So we're like, more than like 2 minutes. And then like by like season 2, they're having like full on like guerrilla warfare out there for like hours at a time, like killing each other. And like, oh wait, the Energon.
Yeah.
Well, no, season 2, they deliberately say all the Energon that like, because it's unstable Energon as opposed to like what we had seen in OG Transformers, where it's like, here's just cubes of stuff that Soundwave emitted from his chest that can like store up like the coal energy from this like furnace or whatever. They make a point that it is different, it's unstable, it's dangerous, and there's so much of it. And that the season 1 finale destroys most of it and transforms what's there into a stable version that does not affect them.
It was an Energon cubes.
Unless you're like right up on it.
Right. Really, the split between season 1 and 2 is like a complete, like, we're just like wiping the floor with all the status quo that we had set up in season 1 so that we can get away with doing a much weirder season 2. And I like a lot of season 2, but it loses some of the vibrancy of the first season. Like, it's way more deserts and it's way more like battleground vistas as opposed
just mesas and steps.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as the eye can see.
So what you're saying is you don't like Silverbolt. Shame on you, Casey.
I actually like Silverbolt, but you know what? If fucking Silverbolt showed up in season 1, he'd be interesting. Showing up in season 2, right when they're showing up, like being like, here's Transmetals and here's all this other stuff going on. Like, oh, and here's Jesus fucking Gorilla Man.
Yeah.
Like, Silverbolt gets lost in the wash at that point.
He's just here to be very beautiful and stupid.
I mean, yes. So, like, the pilot does a lot of great stuff here. Like, we set up the stakes. We establish, like, yeah, at first it's 4-on-5 as far as teams go, because Dinobot very quickly, you think he might be, like, the Starscream of the team, like, gets into a fight with Megatron. I love it, where it's like, leadership takes cunning and cleverness as well. Wouldn't you say so, Scorponok? Like, just shoots him away.
I do like also the pilot is the only time Scorponok is ever a threat.
Yeah.
Like at all.
Well, he's accidentally a threat.
Very quickly becomes the butt monkey of the enemy team.
I mean, is he the worst butt monkey? It's hard to really say.
Look, nobody out butt monkeys Waspinator.
Hey. We put some respect
love
Waspinator.
Love Waspinator.
Waspinator
Secret
says
best
you must
character.
respect him.
Not Wacko, Wonko the same.
God, we love some of these characters, and some of these best characters are all voiced by the same person.
Yeah, I know, right? I do love how they have a completely unsubtle, like, this is the actual Starscream in Pterosaur.
Yeah.
To the point of, like, he just sounds, looks, acts like everything like him. Gets possessed by Starscream in an episode, right? Or is that Waspinator that gets... Waspinator gets possessed by Starscream, that's right.
When Starscream shows up in that, not exactly a deep cut, but the fact that the Starscream ghost thing had been set up already, it's like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
And also has one of my favorite lines in the show, which is when Black Arachnia betrays Starscream and says, "Are all your dreams in Technicolor?" But getting back to the pilot. So we've got this power imbalance, which I think is really fun. We also established that they are not that fucking big. Like, it's not Transformers OG style where it's like, yeah, he's a truck that turns into a robot, but what if he's even bigger than that truck? What if the microscope guy is as big as the truck guy? What if the boombox is 4 stories tall?
What if the bad guy turns into a regular handgun?
Right. At least it made sense with G2 when they turned him into a tank.
Yeah. But yeah, all the Transformers are like roughly analogous to human size. Like, I think they're mostly a little bigger than your average person if you scale them against the like pre-humans in later seasons. But they're like, 6 to 10 feet tall, not 18 feet
45.
tall. Yeah.
Yeah, like we know that Cheetor is the same size as a regular cheetah because of direct comparison there. We know that Rat Trap is very big for a rat, but like it appears that Optimus Primal is about the right size for a gorilla, which means that he's big for a person, but like not terrifyingly big. And, Rhinox actually seems kind of small. And actually, Megatron seems kind of small for a T-Rex.
I mean, again, getting into the arachnids, I've never seen a tarantula that size.
Oh, God.
And if I ever did, I would die on the spot.
Right.
So.
Snap my own neck. Like, this ain't it, man.
I'm out.
This ain't it.
Yeah, and what a roster of villains, though. Like, we talked about Pterosaur being just the Starscream. Like, he's there for that role. We've got Waspinator as the bumbling ally that we like, and we've got Scorponok as the bumbling ally that we don't like in terms of the bad guys. But fucking Tarantulas, man.
Fucking Tarantulas. And it's crazy to go back to the first few episodes of the show and realize, like, A, they hadn't quite nailed down how much Waspinator was going to suck, and they hadn't quite nailed down what they wanted to do with Tarantulas yet, right? It takes a few episodes for them to really be like, actually, Tarantulas is going to be the smart guy.
Well, they right off the bat say that he's the only one who has the skill to break down the giant rock of Energon that they find.
Yeah.
And then the next episode is the web episode where he captures and tortures Cheetor. So I think at the very least they were like, he's going to be the scary spider guy, right?
Yeah. That's why they gave him the spider. Like, it's perfect. But the amount to which Tarantulas becomes a capital P problem, I don't know that they had really planned out at that point.
No, and that's fair. This show is so good at yes-anding in a way, like, once you know how little they knew what they were doing in the pilot, like, it fits so goddamn well. When you get to the end of season 1 and you see all the machinations of Tarantulas and Megatron and like how it plays out and all that, like, oh, that's all really good. And you get to the shit at the end of season 2 where it's like, oh man, it's G1 Transformers and they're all there, but they didn't know shit about Transformers when they made the show. They didn't know what they were doing. They were told, make a fucking show with these toys. These are the reboot guys.
Yeah. Even the pilot is a perfect example of how they yes-anded from the beginning. Because I think you look at the pilot episodes compared to the third episode, and you see that within the pilot, there is so much more of transforming has to come with the full
they have an activation
beast mode
code,
or Cheetor maximize and then lengthy transformation sequence. And from as early as episode 3, they're like, okay, we can cut down on the dramatic yelling at the sky and then stock footage. That's not the tone that's working for us. Let's minimize that a bit. I think it's interesting to see how much more expositional dialogue is in that first episode or two, in a way that works great, like you said, to set up like economy of storytelling to set the stage in 1 or 2 episodes. But the format of dialogue changes so much by the third episode.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, it's, like, kind of nice in the first episode to have them all do individually their, like, activation codes where they say their full name and then, like, what team they're on if they say maximize or terrorize, and go through that. Also establish that it's just a code word that they can just change because Dinobot does it, which is a nice detail there. Like, that's fun. Like, that's Power Rangers for you.
Changes his tattoo.
Yeah, like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's the 90s. We were suckers for it then. I'm still a sucker for it now.
Yeah.
But you don't need to do that going forward. And eventually we get an episode where they full on are just like, oh no, they're all in sync with their animal selves now. The Call of the Wild episode where they all regress to their animal forms, and then like Tigertron gets them stoned, and like, no man, you just need to vibe with your animal self. But that does allow for like really cool moves like Rat Trap, like rolling as a rat and then like standing up as a robot and shooting things. All those kind of maneuvers that really come into play in the second half of the season, which also goes for like what kind of choreography can they do. In the early episodes, if you're really paying attention, even some of the shots where it's like a different angle, it's still the model in the same motion. They can move the camera around, but the gunfire motions are oftentimes the same animation, just like move which angle that they're looking at the model from. And that's because this is a 90s CGI show. This is the Reboot Studio. This is the show that the Reboot Studio did right after Reboot.
Yeah, I was going to say, to clarify for a lot of folks who don't, there was a show called Reboot.
That is not the recent show called Reboot.
Yeah, there's a CGI show called Reboot before this. This is not a studio that does reboots. It's a capital R reboot. I remember nothing about Reboot, to be honest with you.
Reboot is great,
I saw so much
but this came out between season 2 and 3. And so season 1 and 2 of Reboot is rough, particularly season 1.
It looks rougher to look back at, for sure. I think part of it, too, is that, like, because Beast Wars, the designs are robots and toy animals, they don't have to look as off-putting as, like, we made blue people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And even that was choices that were made to get around the fact that it was Tron as a TV show.
Yeah.
It was set inside of a computer so that they didn't have to be that realistic because it was a TV budget CGI show, which at the time was really difficult to do. Side note, there is a call out to Reboot, which is one of the catchphrases for the main character, which is, there's just no pleasing some people. Optimus Primal says to Rat Trap at one point early in the pilot.
Yeah, I remember that line. Huh.
But the point is, this is the show that they pick up after that, before they come back for the amazing season 3 and the lackluster season 4 of Reboot. Season 3 of Reboot, one of the best things you can ever watch. I will continue to sing its praises forever. It's fantastic. But this show is like very clearly part of this like phase of a group of people learning to work with their budgets and using the restrictions of the medium that they're working in to jumpstart creativity. We have such a defined, cool supporting cast in the show because they only have the resources to make 5 models for each side. We've got 10 characters total, and like we have a pretty clear idea of what they're able to do in all cases.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, like, again, new characters come in like at a semi-steady pace, but like paced out. It takes a bit for Tigatron to show up, and then it takes a bit for Black Arachne to show up, and then it's Air Razor and then Inferno, right?
And there's a reason why the first 2 that come in, I mean, also this kind of ties into the toys.
Oh, that's a good point.
Which is that they're palette swaps. Like, yes, they have design changes, but a lot of the foundations for the models are based on the same characters. Tigertron is Cheetor.
They're clone characters.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Down to the same, like, rifle with the brain in the back of the gun for some reason.
Yeah, no,
like...
it's a Marth Roy situation.
Yeah.
And Black Arachnia with Tarantulas. And it's great there because, like, oh my god, like, what 2 wonderful characters did they spawn from this whole thing?
Yeah, holy shit. Those 2 being at each other's throats the entire time is just
yeah, just great details. But we don't get them until later, and they're fun additions. But like they have to like pick and choose their battles for when they bring a new character in, who's going to be important, and yada yada yada. In the pilot, right off the bat, it's like, all right, well, here's like a little first confrontation. There's like a little pit and a rock, and we can establish some character stuff. And they do really good stuff because this is where Rat Trap refuses to jump into battle. And we get like Rhinox being like the big tough, like, they need cover fire, so I'm picking you up. And like, this is a whole Groot Rocket Raccoon situation right here, where he's holding Rat Trap, who's firing in one hand, using Cheetor's gun in the other, because they didn't really want to show off his Uzi as his main weapon in the pilot.
Yeah, the chain gun with a buzzsaw blade on it for some reason.
Buzzsaw blade with then 3 maces.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so random.
It's so weird.
He never once used that thing to hit him.
No, but he does shoot some people at point blank range several times.
Oh, he sure perforates some folks with it. That's for sure.
Rhinox is so great. And like, we will mention beast machines at the end of this, but there is a reason why I hate beast machines.
There's no human being who loves I cannot believe that that's possible.
So we get like this wonderful confrontation between them that sets up all this character stuff. We set up the efficacy of the Predacons. And then the first episode of the 2-part pilot ends with, well, now we've got to have a battle for victory between Dinobot and Optimus Primal, which is nice to set up. I love Dinobot. I love him having this like, well, I need honor. Like, I can't just like beat you with treachery. Like, I wouldn't have earned leadership there. And like, that's such a good way of setting up. He's going to work here because he's the bad guy, but he's lawful evil, and you guys are fighting chaotic evil right now.
Yeah.
And he's powerful. He's got those fucking I-beams. And he's big. And he's got a weird tail spin blade thingy, which thank God in Code of Hero he uses as a helicopter device.
Yes.
Man, Dinobot. So here's a weird thing. I love the Megatron design in season 1. I think it's really cool. I love the T-Rex head as the arm. I feel like it's a great shout out to the G1 Transformers where Megatron, weirdly, it's the scope of the gun, but it acts as a blaster that's on his arm. I feel like it works very well there. I always thought it was weird, though, that they didn't just use the Grimlock design. And then I realized that Dinobot is Grimlock. And in fact, there is an alternate color toy of Dinobot that is called Grimlock.
Oh, I didn't know they did have Beast Wars Grimlock.
Never in the actual series.
Yeah.
But if you look at his transformation sequence, it has actually the same positioning that's going on, where the head goes down to the chest, the legs extend out from the chest and are not part of the main body, and that the legs of the dinosaur form slide up and become the upper torso arms.
Okay.
And then the tail splits open, and on Grimlock it splits open and becomes like part of his back. In this case, it becomes a separate like spinny weapon thing. With his spine being his sword?
Yeah, or something like that.
But like that's part of his. That's the extension of the spine.
It's that's one long thing, one long spaghetti noodle, right?
So there is some weird headcanon of like, well, but maybe Dinobot is the descendant. The point is that they went with this like very tried and true design for the character to be then this like weird villainous Lancer character.
Yeah,
in a 5-man band, that sort of makes the most sense, right? Because then.
Yeah. He was effectively the number 2 on the Predacon side, and then he defects, and because the Maximals just do not have that same explicit sort of hierarchy structure, it's like, okay, well, I'm not the leader, what am I? And it's like, you're just the guy. You're one of the boys now. And clearly, like, he struggles forever to figure out how he is supposed to work as a soldier, as somebody who believes in hierarchies, as somebody who believes in a chain of command. Again, like, they're scientists. Right. This is not a military that he has joined.
Yeah, and it's like a small crew. It's not the Starship Enterprise. Like, yeah, we've got Rhinox. He's really good at scanning shit, and Rattrap's really good at fixing machines, like, and making bombs.
He's sort of the engineer.
Again, Rattrap is just fucking Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah. Technician / demolitions expert / snarky little guy on the team.
God, and I love it. It's definitely not plagiarism in terms of Rattrap, and like it's archetypal, but it's just so well done here.
Yeah. It's a defining version of that archetype for me.
We have this wonderful like face off between the two of them where we get to establish Dinobot's credentials as being like honorable, and we also get to see Optimus Primal showing that, yeah, in addition to having guns that come out of his body and rockets and like guns that come out of his arms, he also has swords. He has like dual scimitars.
Yeah, he's got like a Kopesh or something. Like he's got these.
He is very capable. And then we establish like, all right, well, the Predacons show up and they like fuck up the whole thing, and then they blow up a mountain. And it's like, oh, there's a big energon thing, and they both have to separately go to it. And again, economy of storytelling, or at least like seeding what's out there. They're like, this is a really weird world with like 2 moons and all this other shit. Like, also, that's fucking Stonehenge right there. That definitely was not put here by a thing we've seen so far.
And I love, too, how it kind of confuses you of like, okay, well, we've landed on Earth, clearly, because there's Earth animals and there's Stonehenge, but there are 2 moons that they call attention to. And, you know, the geography and landscape is still very alien and full of energon in a way that it is not by Transformers G1 time or just the modern day. And I love how they even use the pilot to set up things that will be the focus of several episodes separately down the road, and then many of which will loop back around for the season finale.
Yeah. And then the pilot kind of concludes with like a big like 5-on-5 battle in the Energon field, so they can't transform because it's too dangerous. And
you get to watch the Aminals fight.
I mean, some really like right off the bat, they are okay with reminding people like, yeah, no, a T-Rex would be really scary. Like there was a shot and they use it in like the opening credits of like Megatron trying to like bite Optimus Primal's neck.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, yeah, no, that's real bad. And side note, a gorilla would not have been able to survive that.
No.
Gorillas are strong compared to us. Gorillas are not strong compared to Tyrannosaurus Rexes.
Right. There's a mass difference there, you know?
But he's also a small T-Rex.
Yeah. But also just the way that Megatron, like coming into that sequence, like Megatron like stomping in, and the fact that it shakes the camera as he strides in ahead of the rest of his crew. It's very like, yes, okay, yep, you're selling that this guy's big, like way bigger than everyone else on the field.
Right, but we also got a Mario 64 styled Optimus Primal spinning it.
Oh yeah, Optimus swinging around.
Which I have to imagine is just easy to animate because like they're not really moving. Like you just like spin the model around.
But it's so good. It's so good to watch a gorilla swing a T-Rex around by the tail.
Like
and just yeet him
just
off
pure King
into
Kong
the distance.
Right there.
Well, and also you get to see like Rat Trap do whatever Rat Trap does to Tarantulas that counts as an attack. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It kind of seems like he tickles him. I'm not really sure what it is. He goes, that's not even close to the sound. I give up.
No, it can't.
Yeah.
I mean, like the pairing is okay, but as we pointed out, there's 2 flyers on the Predacon side already, and like it's not really like a 1-to-1 kind of comparison right there, but it is close enough that it would fit any of the myriad 2 opposed army kind of TV shows that we had grown up on at this point. If you remember the show Dinosaurs.
Well, you could pair yeah. You could pair any of them off against any of the others, but like I do like how the Predacons and the Maximals do not have clear analogs between each other. You don't have the clear-cut good and bad version of the archetypes. You have pretty different dynamics on each team.
Yeah, like season 1 especially has just like very clear different characters there. And then as we start adding people, they usually come in pairs, so that kind of like puts them as opposite each other. Like Tigertron and Black Arachnia are the first 2 that come in, and then Airraiser and Inferno are the next 2 that come in. For those, like, fill in the slot of, like, well, we were missing this thing on our team. And then we get the Fusors, where we get Quick Strike and Silverbolt at the same time.
Yeah. It's interesting to think of each character that gets added and, like, what is it that they're adding to each team, right? And with Tigatron, we get the heroic character who can't be relied on to always be part of the team, right?
He's like super 6th Ranger when he shows up.
Yes. The heroes get a 1-up, but it's not a 1-up that counts. Yeah. And then Black Arachnia shows up, but Black Arachnia is even more double timing than Pterosaur and Tarantulas are. So it kind of doesn't fully count for the Predacons. And then we get Airraiser and Inferno, who both do kind of fill out, but like Inferno gives the Predacons even more firepower. Airraiser gives the Maximals another flyer they desperately needed.
But when Inferno joins, he's also a flyer in addition to being a heavy.
Completely unrolliable, though.
Well, he's reliable. He's just...
He's an idiot, though.
Reliably going to fuck up everything in front of him.
For better and for worse. Like, if you tell him follow them, he will dig a hole underground below the level of a force field to make sure that he gets there, because he's going to do his job. He's going to live up to the demands of his queen.
For the colony!
For the royalty!
For the royalty!
Yes, my queen. I do. She wouldn't call me that.
Yeah.
But the pilot does his job, is what I'm trying to say here. Like, it's not an intensely complicated story that happens, but it sets up the first season so well.
We will call these the Beast War. Yeah. He said the thing. He said the thing.
It's definitely cornier than the rest of the show, but it does a miraculous job of doing so much setup in just the first half of the pilot. You could do a writing class using that as an example of setting the foundation for what's to come. Most TV shows do not do that well.
Yeah, like, you know the stakes, you know everything that pops up after this point is introduced in the pilot. You have a clear idea of all of the characters, even if some of them end up being more of a fuck up than they are set up in this episode, and some of them end up being more of a fucking asshole than they are set up in this episode. They do a pretty good job of making sure you're aware of, like, what are the players and, like, what are they like? And god damn it, we haven't talked about Megatron that much yet. We got to talk about Megatron a little bit, because his whole talking to himself thing and talking to his T-Rex hand especially is so good.
Yeah, that got interesting later on.
He gives it a rubber ducky.
Yeah, because at times it looks like the arm is sentient. And it's like looking back at him and communicating with him. But he's also kind of doing his...
He's not well.
He's also doing the whole Dr. Claw thing where he's like rubbing the arm.
He pets it like it's a cat. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I think in terms of setting up how different he is from, like, G1 Megatron, he's fucking insane. He talks to his hand for the majority of season 1.
Yes. He's crazy, but he's crazy like a fox.
Yes.
Because he is genuinely incredibly cunning. He is usually one step ahead, if not several steps ahead, of Optimus and everybody on his side who is trying to murder him and take his place. Because that's the dynamic of the Predacons, is like most of them think they do a better job than him, and all of them are wrong.
Yeah, that's such a fun dynamic of the Predacons in general, where unlike in the original Transformers, where it's two opposing sides, and this is the army that's like kind of in the winning position, like the Decepticons have Cybertron mostly under control at the start of the series, and pretty much cements their hold over the course of it. And so Megatron is the leader of this army, and while there's Starscream, the majority of the people are like people in the army with him. The Predacons in this are all criminals. And by that, I mean, there are Predacons on Cybertron, and they have their own governing body. Sorry, we're recording this in 2023, and it's like, you could probably make some weird comparisons to geopolitical stuff going on right now. But suffice it to say, they are a subsidiary state, with the Maximals being the dominant power, but the Maximals are the good guys and like kind of nice. And the Predacons are kind of like, well, we're working with them, and we would like to not be doing this, but right now we've got our government and whatnot. And Megatron is a terrorist, and he has criminals working with him that all have their own goals, and they're all criminals amongst the Predacons.
Yes, because like there's a major plot point of the actual like Predacon leadership wanting him fucking taken care of because his actions destabilize the peace that they are currently in. And it's like, look, we don't like the Maximals either, but we have our plans and our like we're operating within the realm of politics, and you are operating within the realm of car bombing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like we cannot have this.
Right. And that's a really interesting dynamic for these characters. You have to assume that some of that comes from the fact that this is a 90s show as opposed to an 80s show. The original show, you could probably make a Cold War parallel, and this is like the end of history. Like, everything is technically fine. We're at peace with everyone, but oh, hey, there might be these terrorists out there. It's pre 9/11, but like, it's not pre the concept of terrorism.
I mean, look, Die Hard existed before, you know what I mean? Like,
and I also don't want to assign too much like thought about the larger state of the world, but it is the zeitgeist that this show comes out of.
Right. I think it gives us like a really interesting squad of villains in that regard. And I think to this day, it makes the Beast Wars Megatron the most memorable and most iconic version of Megatron out there.
Yes. Why do you always talk to yourself?
His best M. Bison impersonation.
I don't talk to myself.
I'm not you intelligent conversation. It's not until episode 10 that we really get a real Optimus-focused episode, and that is guerrilla warfare. And I love several things about this episode. For one thing, while it is a goofy as fuck, like, we learn something about this plant, and it becomes, like, important for later element, which is very much a part of, like, early Beast Wars. Like, the first half of season 1 has a lot of these kind of, like, the natural world, we're studying these things, blah, blah, blah. We get an incredible use of the biology of the different species that we're in, which is that we see that the dinosaurs have issues when shit gets attached to their neck.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the way Dinobot screams when it's happening is so good. We get some fun uses of Optimus Primal being a giant gorilla, in that when he has to move a boulder, he, like, uses his foot to move a stone to, like, shift things. Like, those are fun right there. We get Scorponok attempting to be the mad scientist archetype that he was intended to be, but then everyone immediately remembering that he's a giant fuck up in everything he does.
Yes. And we get Optimus with the limiters removed.
Right, yes. And this is actually the thing that I really wanted to get to when I was saying, like, well, Optimus has the power of action to do a lot more than he necessarily does in the majority of the show. Like, he's typically one of the strongest members of the team until he's definitely the strongest member of the team.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, he could probably go into a bloody fight and kill a lot of people or lead a lot of people into a situation like that. But he's not about murdering people. He's about apprehending people who stole something. Like, the death penalty is actually not what is required of that. He has restraint all the time up until he doesn't here when a giant fly attaches to his chest and really fucks with his central nervous system.
Yeah.
Isn't the kryptonite?
Yeah, well, and it's a great... Look, everybody knows the famous World of Cardboard speech with Superman, and, like, that kind of applies here, as it's the reminder that, like, Optimus is holding back, because from his concept of morality, he is not supposed to be killing if he can avoid it. That's not what he is here to do. He is not comfortable with that. But also in terms of, like, he puts himself greatly at danger by going full berserker rage, and his team can't afford to lose him. So, like, he could probably take out, as the episode establishes, most of the Predacons single-handedly, die in the process, but then his team is left without him, and then where are they? It's multiple ways in which there's that recognition of, like, this is why I hold back. This is why I am not the ace on the team.
Yeah, when he is taken off the team, they fuck up trying to be like him. Where, like, we have to negotiate. And what they do is they spoil everything. They're like, here's a heads up that Optimus is coming your way. He's out of his mind. You can expect him anytime in the next hour.
Perhaps only Optimus can think like Optimus.
Yeah.
No way.
So, yeah, I mean, like, he takes on Tarantulas, and he takes his, like, anchor thingy that is, like, such a toyetic element. I remember, actually, that toy. It's, like, a spring-loaded, like, grappling hook that fires off. And he uses the other end of it, which is sharp, to impale him against a wall.
Oh, it's brutal. This episode goes hard.
He tanks, like, all of these shots throughout these, which is such a Superman sequence of him just, like, walking through gunfire to go into this whole fight. Fantastic stuff there. I mean, we're reminded, like, oh yeah, big scary flying super monkey is kind of a scary thing.
Yeah, it's fitting making him a gorilla, because it's like just like a gorilla, right? Like, we tend to not remember, like, oh yeah, those things can, like, rip your arm.
Yeah, it's a gentle giant situation.
Yes, and be happy when they're being a gentle giant. Like, that's much preferred to the alternative.
But in this episode, he decides to stop monkeying around and just truck on through everyone. And at the very end, we get, like, the call back to the first part where it's like, oh, just shit attached to his neck. But in this case, it's Megatron, and he's got even smaller arms. He can't even reach. Like, it's a fun episode. I mean, it's not the deepest episode. It's like, well, what if he went angry and bad? And, like, wouldn't that be bad? And, like, I think it's good for this point in the show, it's 10 episodes in, to remind us, like, yeah, no, the leader could be, like, a more aggressive, like, Rob Liefeld style character, and that would be a problem because X, Y, and Z. And X, Y, and Z here is, like, he would probably die, you guys would probably die. The amount of devastation isn't worth it. Like, the collateral damage, like, death, they are fighting, but they can be rebuilt. Most of the characters here take really bad punishment over time, and that doesn't kill them because they're robots. The rules are a little different. The rules get laid out over the course of the series for, like, what is a fatal kind of thing. But, like, the death penalty is not just an automatic thing here. And that kind of incident is, like, a big deal. Like, when a character actually dies, that is taken as a very serious thing. But it's also always on the table.
This is a great example of a sort of a bottle episode. Great, like, first half of season 1 example of, we have a plot that wraps itself up by the end that doesn't drastically change the status quo and is informed by and also tells us more about certain characters. But one of the things that does happen is there's a lot of, like, collateral damage to equipment and bases. And that's the sort of thing Beast Wars makes a huge point of keeping you, like, abreast of. That damage to the ships matters. Because eventually these things have to get fixed and fly off. And you can put a somewhat damaged robot in the tank and they will slowly recover over time if it's not a fatal injury. But when something gets broke, it's broken. When a door or a side of the ship gets blown out, now you've got a side of the ship that needs to get repaired resources are limited, manpower is limited. That stuff matters.
And by this point in the series, we had seen a bunch of these like kind of gimmicky episodes. Like I think we had already had the teleporter episode at this point.
Yeah.
The chain of command episode where Optimus is taken away and like Ratchet has to lead. All the stuff that we like kind of need to do just to be like, yep, this is the show we're dealing with here. But this is just a fun episode in terms of being like, we really need to establish what the leader is capable of and why is he not doing some of those things.
Yeah.
And I think you make a great point in terms of the damage to equipment. Like, while the show has a status quo more or less in season 1, there are big shifts. And like when things happen that like damage the 2 ships, that does have lasting impact in terms of the capabilities of the group, even while they are becoming more effective in their warfare, in developing new technology to fight with each other.
But yeah, guerrilla warfare, great first half of season 1 episode. The pilot gives us the hero. We get to see Optimus continue to be just the leader in the background of several episodes leading up to that. And then we get to see, okay, no, he can rip ass in the right circumstances, but also here's why he does not.
Yeah. So moving on to, it's sort of the mid-season finale, which is Victory. I remember seeing this episode a lot, which I feel like the block probably ended somewhere about here. It's episode 12. There's no actual victory. It's a fake out episode. It does do a really good job of setting up a recurring theme, which is that every time the Maximals think that they have figured out espionage, they are reminded that the Predacons are way better at espionage than they are, which I love, because every time it's like, yeah, we figured out how to like spy on their camera system. It's like, it's a good thing we figured out they're spying, and now we have like fake information being fed to them, right? Yeah, no, it's really great. Yes.
Yes.
We open with, were you guys Deep Space Nine fans? There's an episode called The Pale Moonlight, which is seen as like one of the better episodes of Star Trek in general, wherein there's kind of a similar thing where via deception, they are using a fake pre-recorded sequence to mess with people in it. And in that scenario, it's like way more fucked up than this. But it's still a scenario of the Predacons have figured out that the Maximals have been able to hardwire a feed from their security cameras. And so they pretend to die.
Yeah, they stage like a fake rebellion and fight that leads to a horrible accident that kills them all.
Right. Which, knowing going into the episode, it's like, okay, they're really playing it up in it all. But on the same token, Pterosaur is a piece of shit who has betrayed Megatron multiple times at this point and continues to betray him because he is just fucking Starscream. Like, the show knows that we're Transformers fans.
Starscream, but less intelligent, to be clear.
He's so much worse, which is why they bring in real Starscream just to be like, oh, better Starscream here.
Yeah.
And a reason why Pterosaur does not make it into season 2. But, you know, it's plausible. The only part that really threw me is that, like, Scorponok is, like, on the side of, like, Pterosaur in that sequence.
That should have been the giveaway, I think, to a lot of people.
Right.
Because Scorponok's main defining trait for most of season 1 is that he's the one who stays loyal to Megatron, unquestionably. Which probably also, like, the fact that Inferno comes in and is just that, but funnier, is probably why Scorponok gets written off.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to talk that much about Inferno here, but I actually really like Inferno. He's a giant fuck up, but in a way that I really adore.
Oh, it's incredibly fun.
But yeah, so they stage this like fake death and then abandon their base. And apparently Black Arachnia has developed some kind of tech that hides the signature from their sparks so that no one can actually identify that they are still alive, and allow the Maximals to raid their base, take all the stuff they would need to get their ship able to fly again, with the intent of then attacking the Maximals and stealing the ship and flying off with it. I do have questions about how that all works based on the timeline that we see in this episode. But the big focus, and while Optimus is part of it, the big focus of this episode is Dinobot being like, well, if I go back to Cybertron, I am a criminal who was part of a massive theft of one of the great relics of our world. And I left, and you guys pursued me, and I was a turncoat and joined you when you pursued me. Like, I have nothing to go home to.
You're all going home, and I'm going to prison.
Right.
Like,
forever.
And it's an interesting moment because he decides to stay, and they are like, well, we got to get the ship going. We're going to go. And he's like, I'm going to conquer this world. And it's like, well, that's kind of fucked up. I don't think that's a good idea. It's like, well, yeah, I'll probably die eventually. That won't be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's Dinobot focused at the beginning of this whole episode. Dinobot deciding not to like go is why he's like wandering around and like stumbles upon the cave that the Predacons are all like hiding in. And then they are like, well, we have to kill him before he reveals that we're still alive. Except they just chase him to the ship as it's taking off. And that's why I'm like confused, where I'm like, so what was your plan? They said that they're waiting for them to get the ship online and that they're going to take it. And like Megatron even tries to like hop on Alien Queen style. And like, that's kind of the idea, right? It's not just like, we're going to let the Maximals go. And then we're just gonna, like,
it's they can fix, our ship can't fly. If they take shit from our ship, then they can make theirs fly. And then we'll take their ride and get out of here.
Ship.
But like, it also doesn't totally work because we know that like Megatron doesn't actually want to leave. And I guess that's like a retcon, right? Because there's stuff we don't learn about till later as to why Megatron's on the planet. So clearly they just hadn't thought that far ahead yet. We're middle of season 1.
And you could argue that part of that is that at this point in the show, they didn't realize that they were on Earth yet.
That could be true, yeah.
Because that became clear once the Vox plan at the end of season 1 kicks in, and all of a sudden there's only one moon. You know?
Yeah.
Spoilers.
What do you mean the Earth only has one moon? I've been lied to.
They set up at the beginning that they don't think it's Earth. The question is, when does Megatron realize it? Because he definitely has an idea before the start of season 2, which is when it becomes clear to everyone else. But it's just like, where in this timeline? But like I said, what's the plan if the ship is taking off? Because they weren't going to make it. Like, they barely make it as it is.
What's funny about this to me is it works if you consider that most of the Predacons are not actually smart. Like, Tarantulas is intelligent smart, but Megatron's kind of a dumbass. He's just very cunning. And there's a major difference there. Megatron is instinctually very intelligent, right? He is a very sensing, feeling kind of intelligence because like a lot of his plans aren't great. And a lot of his plans that are great is basically about inflicting damage. He is great at sowing chaos. This is not to excuse the fact that it's a bad plan, but like to me, Megatron is not like he's not David Xanatos. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, yes.
He's just a devious bastard who turns into a T-Rex.
So I would say that he's like a tier above like Cersei Lannister, who thinks she's smart, but all of her plans are bad. Like Megatron's plans typically are not that bad.
He's not an idiot.
Yeah.
I said he's a dumbass. He's not a dumbass, but
like my gripe with this episode is honestly because it's a 27-minute animated show for kids. Like they needed the dramatic stakes of the ship taking off when it happened, as opposed to being like, well, here's our plan to like get on the ship. They didn't have time for it because they had to also have Dinobot discover them and then they chase them and like all that.
But like if Dinobot hadn't stumbled over them and then chased him, then they would never have made it to the ship.
As it
would have been
is,
gone.
but we don't know if there's a different plan. Yeah. And like, again, cheap animation, they couldn't really like show them having like a secret base or something like that.
Yeah. It does end up being interesting getting to see, and this is where the episode does get to stand out for me and where I kind of overlook a lot of the stuff that doesn't work, is you do get to see the way that all the Maximals react to thinking they've won for good. And obviously there's a lot of excitement there, but you get to see like, especially Optimus kind of unsettled in victory of like, it's good to go home, but even to our enemies, this is an awful fate. And this is not how things should have had to go. You know, showing that even in victory, there is like decency there.
Mm-hmm.
Death is on the table, but it's not necessarily what they're trying to serve. Optimus doesn't like that that's the circumstances. Rattrap loves that that's the circumstances. He's like, yay, good, fuck those guys.
He's like, fuck this, we're going to a titty bar when we get back.
Like he almost says that in the episode. Like he's like, there's a tiny little corner bar we're going to go.
He says they have their chest plates off at this place where the servers have the chest plates off or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
He says, I'm taking you to a titty bar.
Cheetor, I know you're technically a child. We're going to go see some boobs. But the reason why we had to talk about this episode, though, is that as the ship is going off, first of all, Dinobot doesn't quite make it, and Optimus goes and saves him because it's Optimus, and that's exactly the kind of thing that we're looking for here. Cheetor is his support, but it's Cheetor. He's as good a support as he's going to be. Optimus successfully gets Dinobot on the ship, but he is affected by the Energon surge, and so he has to like revert back to his beast mode. And then he gets shot in the hand by Scorponok, and so from dangling off the side of the ship, he then falls, and we think he's dead. The ship gets damaged and it's crashing. And then Optimus flies up. And this is where we actually get the moment of them doing it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman, except it's like, nah, it's Optimus. And he doesn't catch the ship and like move it somewhere else. He just like slows the descent so it doesn't crash.
But it's a very Superman like moment straight from the pages.
Superman is fuck right there.
Pushing against the plane, you know?
Yeah. It is the most Superman sequence in all of Transformers. Full stop right there.
Yeah, it's just...
They even do like a little Superman like Christopher
like,
Reeve style like riff.
Like the royalty-free version of the John Williams score right there.
Right.
It's actually kind of like the theme song for the show, actually. And it's just a great sequence there. And this is like really the spot where this character is the Superman of the series. On that note, I do actually want to call attention to the design of Optimus Primal in season 1 because we haven't really talked about that. I don't want to get into the whole like mouth versus no mouth thing that they like vacillate back and forth between. I think that the unified design of like the front part of his face coming down and forming that like vent structure on his chest with like that circle shape in it, but then having the predominant part be ape tissue and then exposed metal parts.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
I think it actually does a really good job of having a very streamlined Superman-ish kind of form to him. It draws attention to his chest in a way that is like appropriate. He's got dimensions that look human-ish enough in good ways. Maybe the color scheme could be different instead of white and red for his like underparts.
Yeah, he's got like the red for the joint parts and stuff.
But I think he looks really good in season 1. I think it's the best that Optimus Primal ever looks. I am not a big fan of his season 2 look. His season 3 look is just a different character. But season 1, I think it's a good fusion of like, here's the Beast stuff, here's the Optimus Prime stuff that we're doing with it all. And then like it comes together in like a pretty solid design. And I think in this episode is where you really see it. I like that it's the guns rotate forward to shoot or rotate back to like act as like rockets.
Yeah.
Or at least as like boosters. Because I think he's had it up and fired at the same time. But it definitely acts as like boosters here. And like you see these huge rocket flares as he's like giving it his all to like keep the ship from like crashing. And you're like, this is a really cool moment. Like it's really pushing a character who we've established is a heavy hitter, but like not broken heavy on this team to his fullest.
But this is also a perfect circumstance for him to cut loose in the moment in a way that he normally wouldn't.
Yeah. As we said, like Optimus is typically not the focus point of the show. He's the leader. And so usually not like the one who has to learn the lessons. So we kind of jump to the end of the series next when we talk about Before the Storm and then Other Voices, which is basically a 3-part sequence.
Yeah. The end of the lengthy season 1.
I think these episodes are incredible for several reasons. One, it ties in so much that has happened in the season so well. The allusions to all the encounters with the alien artifacts throughout is really good. Setting up Tarantulas' betrayal and like what his plans are right from the get-go. Setting up all of Megatron's shit right from the get-go is really good. Setting up Black Arachnia's shit is great. All of the characters have like interesting things that they're doing in this episode. And if they don't do an interesting thing, they're gonna die for good.
Yeah. Every villain who matters gets some heavy stuff to do and like big reveals around them, because it's going to be Megatron, Tarantulas, and Black Arachnia who are the plot important Predacons here forward. Like Inferno and Waspinator will stick around because they're great soldiers. Yeah, exactly. And great like cannon fodder. But it is the 3 that are going to be the most impactful to the plot get their big reveals at this point.
Right. And I think at this point we have all gotten very tired of Pterosaur.
Pterosaur and Scorponok, by this point, this is like 20-something episodes in, they have been extremely one-note characters. The problem is that, like, Tarantulas is becoming a better Starscream than Pterosaur is.
By far. I mean, Tarantulas is creepy. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, Pterosaur is just a whiny bitch who, like, wants power.
Pterosaur is a superficially Starscream analog, but Tarantulas is a better actual, like, scheming character. He is unique instead of just trying to retread the same personality traits. You truly don't understand what the fuck he's up to. And also his vocal affectation doesn't make you want to dig your ears out.
Right.
Like Pterosaur works, you can only hear him talk like this for so many episodes before you want him written off the show. And with Scorponok, it's just that Inferno is better than Scorponok, right? Like we have a better loyal doofus. So of course those two get written off the show.
Yeah, not to mention that they chose Quick Strike as the replacement in the following season, which is like, yeah, let's have the exact same like base animal, but like cooler looking and like kind of manticore-ish instead of just like a straight scorpion. Like, I wasn't tired of Scorponok at this point because it's fine. He just wasn't doing anything new.
I didn't have feelings about him because he just didn't have shit to do.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, he's dumb. He wishes he was the scientist.
Quick Strike is dumb too. Good news.
Yeah. But Quick Strike is also dumb in a fun way. He stands out at how dumb he is.
Yeah.
Wonderful setup for what's to come. Like, this is like, oh yeah, they're coming. This is going to be bad when they show up. Let's rally our forces together here. Like, I don't have like distinct things to really say about Before the Storm versus the other Voices episodes because it all like flows together so well.
Yeah, it really, you might as well have called it part 1, part 2, part 3.
Right. Which when we actually get the aliens arriving and doing their stuff, I mean, we get the golden disc setup, which is nice that we're like looping back in the golden disc idea from the pilot, which I don't think we've really cared about.
I don't think they did much with the whole first season.
Well, because they didn't think it was Earth. So it like doesn't, it's not a thing that they really care about in it. But like, oh, hey, here, new golden disc, and Inferno's a part of that whole sequence because Inferno is great. Like, I don't think I can express how wonderful it is having a fire ant character who thinks he's an ant. At all points. He's so fucking good.
Flamethrower.
But Airazor gets kidnapped. There's a truce between the Maximals. It's kind of funny the way they handle it. Again, the Maximals try to be deceptive, and they try to do like a double feint kind of thing. And then the Predacons are already doing a triple feint, so it doesn't even fucking matter.
They're so bad at it.
Which is just a wonderful part about that dynamic, where it's like, even when the Maximals are being like, no, we're playing chess. And it's like, yes, but we're playing 3D chess.
Yeah. You cannot, like, out double cross the masters of this shit. That's the Predacon Olympic sport.
Yeah.
Which does make it fun, though, when Rat Trap, like, legal loopholes his way into a fight with Waspinator.
Right. But so the aliens arrive. They initially have Airazor captured inside this weird biological dome that they set up.
It's like a big bush.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird.
It's got like, it's like Thing texture, like Marvel's The Thing, but green.
Yeah. It's very much an N64 texture.
Right,
you know what I mean?
That's the weird part about this era, which is like watching the show, I'm like, oh, right, this is what like high-res version of like what was N64, which was coming out at the same time.
Yeah.
If you're a video gamer and you're like, oh, remember that weird
Banjo-Kazooie ass wall texture over here.
Right. It's that nostalgia for that PS1 era, N64 era. Like, where there is weird nostalgia for that level of CGI because it was so fucking new when it came out. But this is where they actually were like doing a show as opposed to doing a video game for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're like, well, they have complete mastery of Energon. They can create Energon. Like, they're not worried about Energon. You can't just like shoot this with like a laser. So they have Scorponok do one effective thing in this, which is he's got a stinger that he can charge up with venom. And he pierces a hole in. So Optimus Primal goes in, takes Airazor out, and like stays to like parlay with these aliens who take the form of Unicron.
Gasp!
What a great shout out.
Yeah. And this is the point where the show definitely knows what they are trying to build towards. Because, like I said, in the pilot, the creators of the show have said, yeah, we just threw this idea of a great war out there. And people are like, oh, you mean like that was the original like Decepticons versus Autobots? And we're like, yeah. Like, here we're there.
That's exactly what we meant.
Man, Unicron. Voiced by the same voice actor as Tigertron. Because you just need someone with the deepest fucking voice.
Oh, I didn't realize that was also the same guy.
Yeah.
The fake Unicron's voice is so heavily modulated.
Right. Well, they weren't getting Orson Welles to do it at this point.
Right.
Because he's dead. And also, it's still weird that he did it in the first place.
Yeah. We have not mastered necromancy at this point.
No, not quite yet. We're getting close, though. But it's fun having Unicron show up. For one thing, it's a big villain of the Transformers lore. It's specifically the movie, so it's actually likely to be a character that people are familiar with, even if they only were tangentially familiar with Transformers stuff, because the movie is likely to be a thing you've seen. So that's always cool. Unicron, just in general, is like fun and has a crazy design because he's just Galactus, but a Transformer.
Galactus who turns into a planet that is also a blender.
Yeah, it's Ego the Living Planet transforming into Galactus. Like, it's great.
He's a robot, which makes him even fucking cooler.
Right, yes. And it's fun to be like, no, we just picked a thing that was important to you.
We hope this gets the message across.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I do like, though, because like Unicron, despite the fact that he's the villain of a movie and like moves on, it's like, no, this was like legitimately a planet came to eat my home world. This has left a deep scar in our psyche thousands of years in the future.
This is the cosmic robot devil. Are you kidding me?
And then we get this great setup where it's like, no, this was an experiment and you have contaminated it. It's no longer a good experiment. We're going to wipe the board. And it's like, oh, you guys are fucking evil too.
It's going to nuke everything.
And at that point, they revealed that the second moon's not a moon.
That's no moon.
It's a battle station. And this gets pretty gnarly. I love the way it works, which is that, one, it's like really cool looking the way that the rock artifice of the moon like blows off and reveals like this like fully mechanical, like spiked.
And then it like unfolds and then refolds in on itself.
Yeah, well, and like first there's like all these like turrets and the light kicks in like this line across it, and then it like reshapes into like this like ring structure. And it's all very like, you know, shitty CGI. Like, honestly,
it still goes hard.
I don't want a new Beast Wars series, but I would not be that mad if someone wanted to do like a remastered Beast Wars series. Yeah, I mean, like do some edits, like, you know, like Beast Wars Abridged, but with better graphics would be awesome. But that fucking moon is so goddamn creepy. And it's not just like, here's a laser gun. It's a heat beam that is going to ignite the energon that we've already set up. Literally has been like the big plot point of the show. And so we can establish that the beam itself is not necessarily going to kill you just to be in it. It's just eventually it'll burn you up. And so if you have like force shields or something, you could probably like move in it for a little while. It's going to be kind of destructive and damaging, but it's not just an energy weapon. It's deliberately trying to have the energon be ignited and blow up, and it's like everywhere. So it's going to kill everyone. And that's a really cool like plot point there. And then we find out that fucking traitor Tarantulas, along with Black Arachnia, who had been sent to kind of betray him, but also betray Megatron, you know, like webs upon webs upon webs of deception.
Because they're spiders.
Yeah, they're spiders. They're all figuring out this thing, and it's like, oh, well, we were just going to fuck off because we're pretty sure we're all going to die. So we do actually have a working spaceship that we used from our parts, and then we stole one of your space coffins.
Space coffins? I mean...
They do describe it like a coffin when Optimus gets into it. It's snug, like a coffin.
Yeah.
And Optimus is like, well, yeah, I'm going to fucking go do this. And like Cheetor's like, I could do it. It's like, what are you going to do, dude? You're going to pilot this thing and then just die? No, I got to be the one to do it. Which is an echo to the pilot, where it's like he would never put someone in that situation that he wouldn't do himself. And like, it makes sense. He's more likely to survive the blast than Air-Razor, who's pretty frail. He's Monkey.
Yeah. Well, and just also he's the captain, right?
Yeah.
Like it is his responsibility to save everyone else. Like he has taken that responsibility completely to heart.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets in and he pilots it, and he is successful in the mission, but not in the, well, it'd be nice if no one died situation.
Yeah, they make it seem like he has died in the process. It seems like a sacrifice.
I wouldn't say seems like.
Yeah, he died. He super died.
Well, so here's I don't know enough about the behind the scenes of like they planned on leaving themselves an out to bring him back or not. But I mean, yeah, it's played as a sacrifice because he thinks he's going to get out. But yeah, Megatron has actually seen ahead. He has predicted betrayal and therefore programmed the flying coffin to not open up.
Right.
So that Optimus can't get out and fly away.
Yeah, and he makes a really good line about anticipating the betrayals of the spiders.
Yes.
And like being able to be a good leader because he can plan for the backstabbing. And that's a really cool moment there that allows for him to win the situation. And I got to say, Mainframe Entertainment, who did this and did Reboot, they love having these like alliances at the end of a season between the heroes and the villains against a greater threat, and then having the villain betray the good guys. Because that's what happens here, where Megatron locks Optimus into the pod. And so Optimus is just stuck there as it like flies in to explode against this moon. And he dies. Like when you look at the debris, there's actually a spot where you can see like his chest piece. Like he's destroyed in this blast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now they decide to go like a weird messianic route.
That's right. Yeah, I'm remembering now how they actually get right bringing him back. So yeah.
Yeah. Season 2 goes into the lore in a weird way that when I started watching the season 2 premiere, I was like, oh, right. they start talking a lot about like shit from like Transformers the movie that was not in the show prior to that point. Like they say by the Matrix a lot, which is a reference to the Matrix of Leadership. They allude to stuff like that, but like, yeah, no, Optimus Primal dies.
If there's one thing you Optimuses are good at, it's dying.
But unlike Optimus Prime, who they just put the pieces together and you're like, well, why didn't you just do that? In this one, they're like, no, he's fucking dead. We had to go to heaven, find his spark, find a brain dead body, and put his spark into it.
It's a great finale to the season. You have to assume that they're going to bring Optimus back somehow, in the same way that, like, the death of Superman wasn't going to stick.
Right.
There's no way, but like, how are they going to navigate this? And the fact that like the entire beginning of the second season is, okay, we've got to address what we're doing with Optimus.
Yeah, and they go 2 episodes without him.
Yeah.
Only 2? I thought it was more than 2.
And defining, like, and the show's very defined by like his absence in those couple of episodes before we get him back. Between the finale and the beginning mini stretch of season 2 really helps refocus, even though we don't get a lot of Optimus episodes through the rest of the show, like how important he is to the rest of the team.
Yeah, I mean, they're at a loss without him. And in fact, we get a character like Silverbolt, who is clearly supposed to be the same like type of character as an Optimus Primal. He's not as effective, but he is that Paladin type character. And he is swayed to be a Predacon at the beginning because he doesn't have an obvious example like an Optimus Primal. It's when Optimus Primal shows up that he like completely like flips sides again.
That's actually a really interesting comparison point to make, because also like Silverbolt is in so many ways the closest thing to Optimus. He's clearly one of the heaviest hitters on the Maximal side. He's also a flyer. He's good at pretty much any task, and he is very much like a moral paragon. He's just kind of naive and inexperienced, almost to a higher degree than even Cheetor is, and needs Optimus to be like that guiding point of how to actually be the thing that he wants to be in his heart.
It's just so apparent how important Optimus Primal has become for everything. In the season 2 premiere, they are just completely lost without him.
Yeah.
It's not just a manpower situation. It's really just a rallying point. They don't know how to function because they needed that beacon in order to move forward.
Nobody is ready to step up and be the new team dad.
Yeah. Season 2 opens up with the whole shockwave of the impact, and we get like them all not all transformed. Rewatching it, one thing that frustrates me is that they do a really good job of setting up why several characters are not impacted by the blast. And then there's just like Airraiser and Tigertron, who just are right next to everyone else and not impacted at all.
It's also weird because a lot of these characters had like, there's a Transmetal Rhinox. So like we couldn't, why Rhinox get done dirty, It
makes enough sense that the characters who are in like the like healing spaces, because like Waspinator falls in it right when the blast occurs. Rhinox and Dinobot are in like the healing pods. Like, and sure, it's fine. It makes enough sense that they're shielded in that regard. But it is really weird that like Cheetor and Rat Trap are both like glowing and being like, we're being hit by a blast. And then right next to them, Airraiser and Tigertron are both like, we're being hit by a blast. And that they point out that they're not starting to glow. The shot happens. It's like, that's weird. I love that both Scorponok and Pterosaur look like they're about to transform, and then they both just fucking fall into the lava. And like, fuck those guys.
And like, I honestly wondered if we were going to get something like, were they going to fuse or something? And like, no, we're just dropping them in the magma.
Right, yeah. Also would have been an interesting twist on the scenario, but nope.
Yeah.
I don't love the Transmetal designs in general. Like, Megatron is fine. I think it's boring compared to the season 1 Megatron design. I love the hand T-Rex head design, but I think his is overall fine. I think Rat Trap is fine. I think that Cheetor's looks terrible, particularly his robot mode. It's garish and weird.
I think Tarantulas is the one that I would say is a flat improvement to me. And part of that's just because of how closely it sticks to the design and aesthetic of the first version of Tarantulas. Everybody else gets major color, like palette swap changes, major changes to the way their face is designed. Like Optimus gets big, giant, bushy eyebrows and like a dad
fucking hate this. This is actually why I say it. I fucking hate the Optimus Transmetal one design.
I like most of it, but that face and head is bad.
I hate that the robot form is so different from the ape form. If the ape form was what translated over, or vice versa, but they look like completely different characters between the two modes, and it seems to be alien things that just don't like link up between each other.
Why does he have blue pectoral muscles as a monkey and then have what looks like a regular like brown and skin tone?
Yeah, why does he have
as a robot?
As a robot, but not as an ape?
Right. It's really a bizarre aesthetic choice.
And like Quick Strike is fine, but Quick Strike I don't think is like enhanced or made worse by being a transmetal. Like the snake head looks like could have been scales. It's like kind of gold looking. I don't think it's really affected by it.
Well, he's a fusor.
But Quick Strike is a transmetal fusor. Silverbolt is not. And like I think Silverbolt would have been much more interesting in season 1, where it would have been something different from what we had seen at that point, but he still would have looked biological. Yeah. The point is neither of them really like changed the game. And then all the later ones, it's just kind of like, well, whatever. It's like the original Dino bots on Transformers, where it's just like, yeah, they just like are made to be like animal-like for some reason. Like Rampage and then Depth Charge are like, yeah, they're technically transmetals, but it loses the meaning of the parts.
Yeah. When do we ever use Depth Charge's alternate mode? Like basically never. Right. Rampage gets a little use out of it, and like Cheetor gets to become a team flyer, especially in the absence of Air Razor. So that's good, but they get used for gags more. Like Rat Trap having a car mode is mostly so people can ride around on him, and it looks like dudes in the Corsair Shrine, like mini cars in a parade.
Yeah, it's extremely funny having Dinobot ride Rat Trap. It's a good dynamic. Rat Trap, I'm not really bothered by. Like his robot mode looks fine. His rat mode looks fine. Like the fact that he has like wheels is fine. It's not a huge change.
Oh, he has legs and wheels, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah. It's mostly that I just dislike that Optimus Primal doesn't make sense.
Yeah. To me, the first generation of designs are the iconic looks for like all of the characters.
Yeah.
And most of them are at best kept similar. So cool toys, not great redesigns. The quality of writing in season 2 is still very good.
Absolutely.
I mean, because especially season 2 is where we get Code of Hero.
Yeah, which why don't we like get over to that? So some shit happens in season 1. Like Code of Hero is about halfway through season 2, but it's real goddamn good. With the shift in season 1 to season 2, we established this is in fact Earth, which means that all of the shit that they were doing beforehand that they thought, well, it's for naught because we didn't actually make it to Earth. They're actually on Earth. It just had been obfuscated by alien technology, which means that the golden disc, which turns out to be the golden disc from the Voyager probe.
Fucking love that.
I love that detail. It's so good. It's a lot of information about Earth. And ultimately, it will mean that they're on Earth after the Ark ship from Transformers has crash landed on Earth. But before we get to that point, we have to establish that like how the time travel rules work. And this show decides to go with the idea of like, well, yeah, you're in the past, so you can modify some stuff and remember it, but you can change shit in the future and the digital record of it will change. They test this by having Rampage, who I like Rampage's personality. I forgot how much he is a douchebag and hates Megatron.
Yeah.
I understood that he is only loyal to Megatron because Megatron cuts his spark out and has one of those like hand grip kind of like workout devices to squeeze it and hurt people, which is just great. So he's able to torture Rampage, who is this unkillable thing, by basically having his heart and squeezing his heart in a way that hurts him. Rampage is, however, a giant crab with like cannons for his alternate mode, and so he's able to just like blow up mountains. And that mountain that was on this recording is now not there anymore.
The peak is broken up the way that it is because we blew the peak off of it.
Right.
So that means that by blowing up the peak in the past, we've changed it in the future.
And we watch the footage change, which is like a very clear, like, okay, yeah, no, so everything's different now, which means that if we kill all the humans, they won't be able to help the Autobots in the future. And they decide we're going to fuck up these Australopithecus that are down there. So we get this episode where the Predacons just are like, yep, this is the population of hominids that will eventually become humans, that will eventually help the Transformers, the Autobots, like create the situation. So let's murder them all. And we get to see some like very scary Predacons on human violence going on here. We get the great setup at the beginning of like the snake attacking a human and probably killing it.
Mm-hmm.
But we get to be reminded of like, oh yeah, Black Arachnia has machine guns all over her arms with all those different legs.
Their legs.
Inferno gets to be scary with his like giant flamethrower gun. Like they all get to be effective for a moment there. Meanwhile, Dinobot has betrayed the team at this point because the whole time travel thing was making him feel like he was predestined to be in this situation. And finding out that time travel works differently means that he realizes that, oh, actually, I made a bunch of choices that were bad. It wasn't because I was required to. That's not good.
Yeah, like the context of all through season 2, Dinobot has been grappling with the question of whether or not he even has free will in the first place, or if everything's predetermined. Is he the way that he is because he has to make these decisions? Is he permanently fated to go back to the Predacons? So yeah, learning, like you said, that the future can be changed kind of breaks him into realizing, like, no, then my code means something, and I need to stand by the concept of honor that I have.
Yeah. A concept of honor that he was grappling with so much that he almost commits seppuku at the beginning of the episode.
It's a really heavy episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Side note, while rewatching this, I realized that in the back of his chambers, he has the flesh of the Dinobot clone leathered out and set up as decoration on the wall. And that's so fucking cool, particularly because he established that he ate the Dinobot clone in season 1. And he has his skin as just a trophy.
Don't overthink that.
I love it. It's also great because it's a reminder of the clone, because the clone is important for later in the season. Weird details there. But yeah, super heavy on this whole thing. Just the writing's fantastic. I need to call out that the show has a lot of really good writers on it. Writers that we know for other stuff. Like Marv Wolfman wrote episodes. Larry Ween wrote episodes. Like guys working in comics today were working on the show. This episode is written by Ian Weir, who I am not familiar with, but fuck, does he write a hell of an episode. Like the speech Dinobot gives when he realizes the time travel paradox, he realizes the circumstances, he realizes that because of various things, he ended up giving the disc back to Megatron so that this is all his fault. And he realizes the power that he gave Megatron as a result of this all is incredible. When he says it's like, oh, my actions are my own, my decisions are my own, but I find at this moment I cannot make any other choice.
Where he says, I am warrior, let the battle be joined. And I was like, that's kick-ass.
I mean, I don't think this is weird to say. I think that every person who has ever played D&D has wanted this to be how their character dies.
Yes.
Like to just have that like really indulgent last stand kind of moment, like the executioner at the Bridge of Hell from Walt Simonson's Thor run. It's just fantastic stuff here where Dinobot has to go in, and we've established that the transmetals are more advanced than the non-transmetals. They no longer have just like way too much power all the time. So there is that as a restriction. And he has to deal with collateral damage, which is a Superman thing we talk about. And yeah, Dinobot is not the Superman character, but like if enough people die, they lose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like lose for real.
It's over.
Yeah. So Dinobot goes in. I mean, first off, he takes on Tarantulas. I love the whole like the stench of your perversion revealed yourself line. Tarantulas, even when he's like fully a robot, is just so fucking creepy. Yeah. He just wants to melt that deer and then just drink that deer. Yeah.
Dinobot going full guerrilla warfare and using like just superior tactics to take out each of these Predacons like one after another, eventually leading to the hammer.
Yeah. I mean, same way Optimus, he like takes like the machine gun fire from Black Arachnia. With Inferno, he like completely cuts his body in half with his like weird spine sword.
Yeah.
The fighting is incredible. Quick Strike shows up and Quick Strike's not effective, but Dinobot is running out of power. So like he can't laser blast him anymore. So he just has to beat him into unconsciousness. And then Megatron shows up, and Megatron 1 is just, he's big, he's a T-Rex, he's a transmetal, and he's got human hostages. That whole sequence is so good, right down to the spot where like Dinobot has already run out of power. His system is trying to shut down. He's overriding it. And like, they're like, your spark is going to die. There's no walking away from this one.
Disable the limiters. It's time to just finish this out.
And the whole sequence where it's like, what are you going to do against a transmetal? And he says, improvise. And he takes a stick that he tried to use, slams it into a rock to turn it into an axe, and uses it to do just enough damage to Megatron that he's able to wrest the disc away from him and use the last of his power to do an I-beam that we've established is like a big energy waste for him to destroy the golden disc and thus render Megatron's powers inert. Because They also set up very well, Megatron has not made copies of this disc because he doesn't trust anyone.
So by making that sacrifice and using the last of his energy to the point that he cannot be revived, he has stopped Megatron's ability to change the future effectively.
Just in time for the Maximals, who were racing as fast as they could to get there, and all talking about being like, fuck, we're not going to make it in time.
We're not going to exist if we fuck this up.
But also, it's like, there's no way he's going to be alive when we get there. And they're right. Like, ultimately, they're all worried. And we get to see some of the characters who are mad at Dinobot. Like, Rat Trap is really pissed off at Dinobot because Dinobot betrayed them. And, like, they had this whole scene of Rat Trap being like, you know what? You might have been, like, a something slag and saurian, but at least we knew where you stand. But he's super worried about Dinobot. Like, we know that they care about this guy at this point, and they're moving as fast as they can to get there, and they arrive just a little too late.
I like how they get to use the "we know where you stand" line, both to express like the disappointment when he betrays them, and then also after his death. It's a great bookending of his arc in season 2.
But then also with one last barb from Dinobot being like, upwind of you for preference.
Yes.
Such a great relationship between those two characters. This whole show had like such a great rivalry, so much banter that has been just delightful. And that we get that at the end too. It's so good. Carrie Chalk as Optimus Primal being like, you saved everyone. Like, I want that voice at my deathbed. Like, like you did good, kid. Like, can't imagine a better thing.
Yeah.
It's very much a like ship out of danger. Like, yes, Spock, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one.
Or I didn't tear up watching this.
I mean, it's easily the most standalone episode of the show. You give it to anyone, they're like, that was really fucking good. What is sorry, this was 90s Transformers?
Yeah, it turns out.
Beast Wars.
Yeah, God, it's just incredible.
Even though this wasn't like an Optimus Primal focused episode, and like it isn't really about that like kind of archetype, it is still about a character like sacrificing a position of security to give of themselves to make the world a better place. And it's just so well written. It's so goddamn good. Even in this episode, like, Dinobot is not a nice person.
No, he's not a nice person. He's not even really a good person necessarily. And like, but I think the show makes it clear that there is a difference between like a good person and an honorable person, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not even necessarily about whether or not like Dinobot redeemed himself at the end, so much as like Dinobot was true to his concepts of morality. His arc in season 2 is about him losing touch with the things that he believes in and coming back to that and believing in that self-actualization and believing in that concept of honor and defending the helpless, not because they're innocent, not because they are good, but because it is unjust. If the humans had been better fighters and it had been a closer fight, then he'd have left them to be. And I think it's understanding the full complexity of that character is kind of what makes him so fascinating, even at the end.
Yeah. And at the end, his spark leaves his body and joins the Matrix, which is like their heaven. This season brings up more the whole idea of the matrix of leadership and everything from Transformers the movie, less so the show. They were kind of more like flying by the seat of their pants. But this expression of till all are one, and like it's a Valhalla for this character. His spark continues on, and we know that it is a thing that they have addressed in this season because Primal died and was brought back from it all. But here, Dinobot is actually given a rest after so much struggle, internal and external, and really making that like valiant last stand. And fuck, man, it is so good.
Mm-hmm.
If you have not seen this episode, even if you haven't seen the show, I would say watch this episode.
It's a great singular episode, stands on its own.
Oh, yeah.
But also, like, within the context of the show, right? The fact that, like, Dinobot has probably the most impactful death in the show, other than Optimus's, undermined by the fact that they bring Optimus back. But it also kind of makes the fact that Optimus is the one that gets to come back, kind of makes that special.
Yeah.
We couldn't have done that with Dinobot. We could do that with Primal. Which is, to your point, is like because Primal shifts kind of away from a Superman archetype and almost into like a Jesus-like character. Like the further into the show you get,
like a regular Prime.
Yeah, season 1, he's allowed to be like a little unsure of himself, a little bit kind of figuring things out. But season 2, Primal has become the team leader, and like things are kind of locked in. Getting into the end of the show, which is at the end of season 2, they find the Ark from classic Transformers. They find the giant robots that are inside, and like it's staggering to see the scale difference. And Megatron kills Optimus Prime, or at least he like shoots him in the head.
Yeah.
And so to prevent Optimus Prime from dying, Optimus Primal makes the dramatic decision to absorb his spark into himself.
Hold his spark
while they fix the body. And that causes him to transform into this crazy, what they call the Optimal Optimus, which is this giant robot. Giant by the maximal standards, but not as big as a full G1 Transformer standards.
I kind of took him to be like G1 Transformer scale, honestly.
No. When you look at Optimus Prime head size versus the rest of them, like,
oh, he's massive.
I'm probably lightly misremembering here.
He's real fucking big. Like, he's real fucking big.
Yeah. They turn him into a gigantic blue and orange Optimus with like 4 different forms.
Right. And still some ape details for some reason, but they never like really like do the ape thing.
Yeah.
He's an ape jet motorcycle robot.
I think when they finally see Optimus in the Ark, and they look up at like the scale, like he's ginormous sitting in the chair.
Oh
he, like,
yeah, I just pulled up a pic on the side,
like,
and I'm like, oh yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah.
He's massive.
G1 Optimus is like a kaiju fighting kind of size thing. Like he's like 3 or 4 stories tall. Like Optimal Optimus is like 2 stories tall. Like he's real fucking big. He's just not G1 Transformer big.
So we have this moment of like, we're going to play up once again. It's the season tween. So we have to have Optimus make a big sacrifice like we did with the end of season 1. And I don't know that it hits as well. The stakes are incredibly high, obviously. But what ends up happening is he does a risky thing that just turns him into the most powerful character on the cast. So powerful that, as you pointed out, like they just have to write him out of every episode.
Yeah, that's the thing. After this point, he is not the main character in any episode because he is just way too
He's
strong.
barely a supporting character.
Yeah.
You can't do anything with him because he instantly solves every problem if he's allowed to interface with the plot.
This has been the point to bring back that theme from the movie where Hot Rod like takes a spark.
Oh yeah,
they got the, you got the touch.
Yeah, I mean this is arguably the point where he actually becomes a prime.
Oh man,
because like. Yeah, he's an Optimus, but the primal part is more like a joke almost in the like the pilot. It's Megatron who calls him that for the first time.
Yeah, they append that onto his name because he's got a new gorilla form.
But like the prime part is the important part. It's actually not the Optimus part. The prime part is what the matrix of leadership bestows on you. Because
Optimus is a name. It's like Gary, right? It's not the fact that he's Gary, it's that he's King Gary.
Right.
Like that's what matters, you know?
I mean, it's a cool name. Like Orion Pax doesn't have the same ring to it, but
right.
But yeah, the prime part comes from the matrix of leadership being infused into you. And they make a point that the Optimus Prime spark has that, and that Primal takes it into himself. The thing is, though, he is not able to be a major player aside from when later Megatron does the same thing with the Megatron spark and turns into like Dragon Megatron, which I want to like more than I do.
Look, I was, again, 90s kid. I should be all into the dragon shit, right? And like, it just doesn't hit right. He's already a T-Rex. You don't have to go this hard. It doesn't help he's only there for like 3 episodes as a dragon, if that.
Also that, yeah.
It's so short.
Yeah, he's in more episodes in Beast Machines that way than he is in actual Beast Wars. Season 3 is fine. I enjoy several parts of it. Transmetal 2, Cheetor has some issues. I don't mind the werewolf story that they do to introduce it, and the design I actually rather like compared to Transmetal 1, Cheetor. The fact that it's like a adolescent kind of thing where he's like kind of into Black Arachnia. He like discovers sex is like kind of weird, and then Black Arachnia, I don't really like the transformation. I do like that Black Arachnia becomes a good guy. I think that arc is good for her, but her like getting her transmetal form just never quite works right.
No.
The Dinobot clone that they make. First off, they make like Dinobot drones, which I think are really dope. I actually enjoy whenever you take like, here's a plot convenience of an early episode, and how do we make it kind of fucking scary in a later episode? That I think is really cool. Like it's akin to in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, to bring that up again, when they're like, well, we have replicators and we have cloaking devices. What if we make minds that self-replicate and are also cloaked? those are really cool. Like when you combine all those things together. Or, hey, we have transporter technology and sniper rifles. What if the sniper rifle transported the bullet into the person's head? Really cool shit that you can do combining all the different MacGuffins. And so that's a fun thing that they do. And I like that then they create the Dinobot 2 character. I don't mind the design that much. I think it's overall like fine. I like the arc of the character discovering who he is as issues with Rampage kind of go on. Like he has a good moment at the end, I guess, is the big thing.
The problem with cloning Dinobot is like eventually Dinobot's going to do the thing that Dinobot did.
Right.
That's the whole idea, is that like that part of him that is noble in some, even if it's lawful evil way, is still going to be there.
And watch out when you see him off in the corner quoting Hamlet.
Yeah, right. You see him quoting The Tempest, get the fuck out.
Like those are all good, and then the show ends, and then Beast Machines picks up where they've left, and even though for some reason Waspinator was explicitly left behind, Waspinator is like one of them. Beast Machines fucking sucks.
They never made a sequel to Beast Wars. They never did. They never did. And like, I don't do that joke about anything, because sometimes we just have to live with bad sequels. Beast Machines does not get to exist.
It ruins the character of Optimus Primal.
It ruins every character. Like, every single character is done so dirty. I don't know who it's for. I don't know what the point is. It is a deeply angry and mean-spirited show that walks away with a sort of cynical nihilism. I truly don't understand who hurt these people.
It's such a bummer because, like, Beast Wars has so much fun in it. Like, it is a war. There's some, like, 90s isms going on in this whole thing. Like, the fact that the pilot ends with, like, here's a 5-on-5 brawl in their animal modes. Like, yeah, sure. You know, whatever. Like, the extended sequences of them all saying, like, yada yada, maximize, yada yada, terrorize, yada yada, maximize. Like, going back and forth on that one. Super 90s cartoon cliches, but incredibly well written, really well paced. Sure, there's like MacGuffins and like bottle episodes and like here's like the weird shit of the week kind of episodes. But like Call the Wild, which we didn't talk about that much, is like such a fun episode of them getting into their animal mode vibe.
Do an ayahuasca at the end. Like
the heel face turn for Black Arachne is so good.
And again, like it's the fact that so many of these things, it's not like here's the episode where Black Arachne becomes a good guy. It's that Black Arachne's character development happens visibly over the course of dozens of episodes.
It starts in season 1. Her relationship with Tarantulas starts the whole thing. Not just the fact that she's like betrays everyone by default because that's just her mode. The way that she is manipulated and the fact that she's part of like teaming up with them at the end. Like she's the one there making the escape shuttle that like Optimus pilots. Like that starts off the arc of them actually being allied. And that doesn't have payoff until season 3.
It's a good show. Good character writing.
Animation sucks. Like, I'm not going to pretend otherwise.
It's aged.
Well, right? I mean, it's a product of his time.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. It was really impressive at the time. I was like blown away. It was so fucking cool because it was brand new.
If you can take it like with the understanding that yes, the models are and textures and all that stuff is a little older. Like, I still think some of the actual animation can be surprisingly good at times. I think a lot of that is that they know really well how to set up a scene, how to block a shot, how to move the camera. Like there's excellent filmmaking going on with really rough assets. And I think it's actually, if you're somebody who is into that kind of stuff, it's actually fascinating to see like how high quality a lot of the production work is on this, even with assets that have aged very poorly.
Oh, like, yeah, because there was a shot, I think it was when Optimus is coming back after he died, where they're like trying to protect the ship against the Predacon onslaught. And Cheetor, Rat Trap, and Dinobot get blown backwards, and the frame rate just drops to like 2 as they're falling back. And I was like, oh, yeah, they get, I can,
there's a shot like that
on that one
where I saw that sequence and I'm like, man, if this wasn't a 90s CG cartoon, I would have believed that was like a cool artistic thing going on there. And it's definitely not here.
Yeah.
It looked like StarCraft CG cutscenes. And like, it's fine, The episode's amazing. but there are spots where you're like, oh yeah, that they just couldn't render that in a way that was smooth.
Yeah. It's really fascinating to go back to because it's a really good show if you're somebody who's trying to develop that eye, right, for like cinematography and things like that, to see something that is well crafted in that regard, but looks kind of ugly because the graphics have just aged relatively poorly. But good filmmaking is good filmmaking. You know, good shot blocking is good shot blocking. So
yeah,
it's very fascinating to look at in the modern day with a critical eye and see like how much passion and craft did go into this.
I mean, just looking at like Dinobot in season 2 versus season 1, they start adding more like crud and rust to his body. He's beaten up a bit more, but like there's just texture in a way that is just not in season 1. And his model looks so much better just with that level of difference. You can see the technology advancing. And like I said, this is like the second big CGI show, but it's so well written with such interesting characters. It's funny at the times where it needs to be funny. It's a 90s kids cartoon. Like, we're not trying to pretend that this is like gold, but it's really well done for what it was. And it is a reason why this kind of an archetype of like heroic characters and like the larger 5-man band, when they're done well, we're like, yeah, these are cool fucking characters that I want to see do well and prosper and succeed. And I want the villains to do well because they're interesting and exciting. And I like the dynamic and back and forth between them all.
This is good. Good writing, good filmmaking, even given like the budget and technical limitations they're working with. There's some characters, especially on the Predacon side, that really didn't like find their character until partway through that first season. But even that part's kind of fascinating to see which characters they understood from the beginning. They knew, especially with like Optimus, Megatron, Rat Trap, Dinobot.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing with them from episode 1. And to see kind of everybody else get found in the process is just, yeah, really fascinating.
Derek, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I've wanted it on for a while now, and I was looking for a good excuse. And like, I knew you and I both like had a shared love of Optimus Primal and this show in general. I've written the thread that will eventually become a video, and maybe if I time it right, will be coming out as a video for the Superman Analog series about the time this episode drops. So we'll see. But thank you for coming on just so that we can kind of gush about this and chat, because it's always fun to talk to you, and it's such great work to chat with you about. But you talk about a lot of fun stuff online, and where can people find you, follow you? Who are you? What's your deal? We didn't do that.
We were so excited we skipped past guest introduction, which, to be fair, like I've been on enough different CPOV podcasts at this point. Like some people may recognize me anyway. My name is Derek Van Dyke. I am on most websites that I am on as Derby City Derek. What I do primarily is 2 shows. I do SDGC, otherwise known as Super Deluxe Games Cast. That is a weekly progressive like gaming podcast where we talk about what we've been playing. We talk about like the latest news headlines, talk about developments within the industry. We do some streaming and some reviews and stuff like that. It's a big group of us. I also do Castle Bravo, a Godzillaverse retrospective, which is a podcast where we've gone, me and my sister Charlotte, chronological release order. We're going through everything Godzilla and immediately Godzilla related, digging more into the politics of these movies and the craft behind these movies, the historical context of what was going on, like why each movie is the way that it is. That, as of time of recording, has been on break for a couple of months because there was some personal tragedy that happened, but I'm actually getting the next episode ready for this week. So I don't know when this is going up, but Castle Bravo should be back in full swing by the time people are listening to this.
I will say that this episode will be dropping quite a bit after when we record it.
Well, then we might be back on a pause because I have to stop again when we hit the 1998 Godzilla because I cannot cover struck work currently.
Yeah, even though this is Canadian and voice actor work is its own weird little subset, I probably am going to hold on this one at least until the SAG strike is resolved. I'd rather not blur the lines if I could help it.
Yeah, I'm good doing the Japanese movies, but like once I don't care that it's 1998. Like I'm gonna wait a bit.
Yeah.
We're just gonna do it indefinite hiatus until the strikes are over before we cover the Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully by the time that it even would be coming up,
I would fucking hope. I hope there's a deal tomorrow. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean it's November 5th, 6th now because we've been recording for multiple hours. But again, thank you so much for coming on. Like, again, you're just a blast to chat about. Castle Bravo is a ton of fun. SDGC is also, but like, I've actually been on Castle Bravo, so I can like be like, yeah, no, it's been great to be on there.
Yeah, we have at least one episode you've been on that you can plug. Will be more in the future.
You and Charlotte have been on Another Pass because we talked about King Kong, the 1970s remake of that.
Yeah.
Trying to keep that kaiju
That's a
brand.
great episode of that, too.
It was.
It's
like,
a meaty episode.
A lot of fun chatting with you. And I'm so glad to get you on here, especially because, like, if you're not like a hardcore Superman fan, we've covered a lot of like the big material that people are familiar with. So it's like nice to like find the things where I'm like, yeah, we could just like gush about like a really cool fucking guy like Optimus Primal.
Yeah. Optimus Primal's a good Superman.
Yeah.
And if people watch Beast Wars, they can see that for themselves.
Fun fact, in college, in my fraternity, my pledge name was Optimus Prime less than meets the eye. So even though like Transformers is not really part of my brand, it kind of is. And people should check out stuff that is part of my brand. And also Jmike's brand. Jmike, where can people find you and follow you?
I am on Twitter at Jmike101.
Yeah.
Eric and I just started following each other a little while ago.
Mid-podcast, as one does.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah, I post like funny GIFs and memes and things occasionally here. You reach out and talk, I will chat back.
Yeah, and also you have Blue Sky because I gave you my code.
I'm working on it.
Most of us have Blue Sky. We just haven't gotten around to using it regularly because we're waiting. We're waiting for Birdsight to die. It's hard to give up.
Yeah, I know it is because the engagement is like more there. But I will say Blue Sky is where a lot of comics Twitter has gone to, so it's a fun place. And
it's a healthier place.
Oh, by far. Most of the time I go to Twitter for two things. One is to look at what people I know are actively saying about a thing, and two is to block the people in their replies.
Good attitude.
I like look at their profile, like were they making a joke or were they being serious? Oh, serious? Block. Moving on with my life. On that note, you can find me on Twitter at KSaken. You can find me on Blue Sky at KSaken. Whatever the whole follow-up part for that is. You can find me on Instagram at Quetzalcoatl5 because I'm holding on to my AIM screen name for dear life there, and on Twitch, but I also don't stream. So if you see a comment from a Quetzalcoatl5, that's a me. But you can find the stuff I do at certainpov.com. There's a ton of great shows. Let's plug SideQuest, which you've been on to talk about stuff.
I've been on SideQuest several times.
Yeah, so SideQuest is a fun side series to the Fun and Games podcast, which Matt, our former editor, and Geoff, our current editor, host. SideQuest is where people can just gush about a game that meant something to them, the same way we have just been gushing about this goddamn show this whole episode. It's a really fun time. We've all been there to talk about video games. They're just like a lot of fun, and it's a great podcast for that purpose because positivity on the internet is at a premium, and that is a show that is all about that. So check that shit out because it's about people caring about things. Like, that's the best way I can describe it.
You should listen to more people talk about the things that they love.
Yeah.
Rather than the things that they hate.
Exactly. Otherwise, you can find tons of great shows at certainpov.com. You can find a link to our Discord server. You can find a link to our YouTube page where I do all the Certain POV YouTube video stuff. So check all that stuff out. We'll be back next time with something. I'm not entirely sure what at the moment based on a release schedule. Things have gotten weird. I have a 7-month-old. My brain is mush. But until then, stay super, man.
Men of Steel is a Certain POV production. Our hosts are Jmike Folsom and Case Aiken. The show is scored and edited by Geoff Moonen. And our logo and episode art is by Case Aiken.
Our unique medium.
They can tell stories.
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
Blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there. So we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Geoff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
You get back up and you drink that horse.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.